Uniting America with truth, justice, and independence. This is the Norman Goldman Show.
I'm a big fan of the Los Angeles Times. I'm a big fan of the LA Times. I hope the Koch brothers don't buy them because I'm not going to be very happy. In fact, most of the people who work at the LA Times aren't going to be very happy. And I know the subscribers of the LA Times won't be happy. On the front page today of the Los Angeles Times, the title is Struggling to Take Off. What they're talking about is the Pentagon budget, the military budget. And in particular, they're talking about a plane called the Joint Strike Fighter, the F-35. Now, the reason the thing is called the Joint Strike Fighter is because the theory when the thing was first being developed was, let's develop one basic design for a plane, an attack jet, right? One of these military bombing, made for war kind of planes. Let's develop one, and then we can do modest tweaks to the simple basic, well, not simple, but the basic structure of the thing so that it can be used in lots of different ways. It can be used on aircraft carriers for the Navy. It can be used for regular takeoffs and landings the way airplanes do for the Air Force. And it can be used for these kind of vertical jumps like the Harrier jump jet for the Marine Corps. So the idea was, let's get one basic design and then we can make some minor adaptations or some reasonable adaptations and have one plane suited for three different branches of the service. Nice theory. The engineering of it, though, didn't work out. And in fact, as we often see with these military weapons programs, the thing has gone totally haywire. According to the LA Times in this article, the General Accountability Office, which is an arm of Congress, a nonpartisan, simple, number-crunching arm of Congress, all their job is to do
math desk.
That's it. All they do is
math desk.
They just crunch numbers, okay? So the GAO has estimated that the Joint Strike Fighter, the F-35, will cost $12.6 billion a year on average through 2037. Did you get that number right? I mean, did you hear that?
Hello.
$12.6 billion a year on average through 2037. That is $1.4 million with an M. $1.4 million an hour for the next 2.5 decades.
Hello.
Now, is that a wise way to spend our money?
Absolutely.
If you are one of these military contractors and their shareholders, then of course you'd agree with Governor Etch-a-Sketch, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. Lockheed, one of the huge corporate defense war contractors, is out there with all kinds of campaign contributions in order to get these kinds of contracts. But more so than that, they do what is often done in these military deals is they spread the contracts around, the subcontracts, so that Lockheed has donated to 425 out of the 535 members of Congress in the 2012 cycle. That's according to OpenSecrets.org. And the company has all kinds of jobs in subcontractors in 47 out of the 50 states and Puerto Rico. So what this turns out to be basically is a massive jobs program. And what it really is a massive waste of money. Now, if we took that money, instead of building a plane, a war bomber, and we put it into building American solar panels and putting Americans to work like union workers with like good wages and proper decent benefits, instead of building a plane which just sits there, but the money that they've gotten has not added anything to the general economy. They've built a big plane that sits there until we have a war, of course, which we seem to have a lot of. Military spending is grotesquely inflationary. When we spend billions of dollars on bombs and guns and bullets and all these planes and whatnot, it just sits there. If we took that same money and built solar panels with Americans, putting Americans to work building solar panels instead of bombs, and we used American labor at union wages to put these solar panels on schools. Then the public would pay less in electricity bills because the schools would have electricity from the sun. If we put them on the city halls and on the various state buildings and the federal buildings and put them on people's homes, we could get ourselves off of fossil fuels. We wouldn't need to frack. We wouldn't have to import oil from Saudi Arabia. We would have a ripple effect, a massive ripple effect through the economy, rather than just spending all these billions of dollars on a plane that just sits there. That's why military spending is so grotesquely inflationary. And Congress, for all the chest thumping that Congress does about waste, fraud, and abuse in government, we haven't heard a peep about this. We have not heard a peep about this. The latest cost estimates from the Pentagon is that the F-35's development and production cost is $391.2 billion.
Hello.
$391.2 billion. And let's remember, we're spending $2 billion a week in Afghanistan, $2 billion a week in Afghanistan. We spent $1 trillion in Iraq, $1 trillion on the lies that got us into Iraq. We've got a global empire, which is very costly to maintain. We build all these spy satellites, right? I mean, understand how much of our national wealth is being siphoned off to war and death and the machinery of death. And that's not even talking about the F-22. I've been talking about the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter, which, you know, is its own boondoggle. The F-22, which we have spent other billions of dollars on, the F-22 has killed pilots because they can't feed them oxygen when they're sitting in the cockpit. This is a disgrace, and I'm really quite sick and tired of listening to politicians talk about waste, fraud, and abuse in government, but they just keep throwing ungodly sums of money at the Pentagon. And while the Republicans are on
Scandal Watch 2013,
this apparently doesn't qualify as Scandal Watch 2013.
Uniting America with truth, justice, and independence. This is the Norman Goldman Show.